and I'll just explain where the property is and how we came here. From Waira, Hawke's Bay, and down there is the airstrip, and I had a Oster aircraft landed there, and we were shown the farm, which was in ruin, and all these hills, some of them were in scrub, and we then decided to build a house in the middle, which is down there. We go to the Murray Pars on the skyline. This was around about 1960, so it's quite a while to go. The worst part of the land we decided to put into pines, which is over there, and the second crop is actually almost ready to harvest.
We couldn't find the back boundary. Crawling on our hands and knees, it was a jungle of weeds and fairly steep, so we took up a farm encouragement loan in '62, I think, and planted 80 acres in pine trees. Our early plantings were nearly all pines, which were, of course, the cash crop and grow fairly quickly in the Bay of Plenty. 25 years, they're about ready to fell, and we're very fortunate in having a timber port so handy, so we don't have to spend a lot on cartage. Our daughter Gabrielle, who's a landscape architect, came home and said we were stuck in a monoculture and we should get into some hardwoods.
Yeah, this is, okay, my husband and I bought 124 hectares off my parents about 10 years ago. There's about 20 hectares of pasture, which you can see now, and the rest is all in trees. It was a wet valley, the bulk of it, through the middle. In fact, we called it the Long Swamp. My parents had always called it the Long Swamp, and I can well remember as a child sitting on the edge of the wetland watching my father dynamite it and the eels flying through the air. It doesn't take much to do a small planting on a farm. It might be a difficult corner somewhere, or it might be a slip and you're just using poplar poles. But once you can see the benefits of that small planting, you can easily look around your farm and find plenty of other areas that you know, could go the same way. And then in time, you know, you've actually get an income off those alternative uses of the land. This was an interesting problem that we had. These paddocks were too big. We wanted to subdivide them. In the middle here we had this little gully with some remnant natives in it that gets extremely wet at various stages over the year, and we were having problems getting a vehicle across there, and we were getting a lot of stock stuck in the bottom of it. At the same time, we'd put in this little dam just beforehand, so we thought, well, why don't we connect a planting up around there, take in that little gut of a valley. And so we've planted it in New Zealand kauri. We've done that with scion. They're measuring them, their growth rates, and we hoped that will be there for a very long time, obviously, choosing New Zealand kauri, but that they'll be grown for timber. We also, over the years, did some poplar planting that you'll see, and that was really just for immediate slip relief and holding the soil on steeper slopes, and that we've always found that really effective, and my husband and I have gone on to use that poplar in building a little hut and for fencing and retaining walls, so we've found that really useful over the years. So this is a little weekend retreat that we've got in the middle of our forest. What I'd really like to point out is that it's all made of poplar. We had a large poplar shelter belt that went right through this long swamp wetland area, and when we came to clear it out and make some dams and some wetlands, we had too much poplar to deal with in terms of the bulk and the leftover, so we trucked out the logs and had them sawn up and into TG&V and for flooring and subflooring. So it's a very light wood, and we've really enjoyed it, living with it. Normally you wouldn't do a floor out of it, but we didn't have enough money to buy anything else, so we just used the poplar. And we've really enjoyed it, and a lot of people comment on how much they like the lightness of the poplar. Now this was just a rundown old shelter belt that I like a lot of even erosion poplar planting around New Zealand. You know, it can be used, and it can be, we've gone on and used it for fencing as well, and for retaining walls, and for the yards, 6x2s and 8x2s. Excellent. We've really enjoyed having it, and the fences love it because it's such a light timber. So just showing you some of this area, you can see quite a lot of riparian planting, and then down to a large dam that we put in, and cypresses lusitanica on the side here. This was a forested area, and as I said, there was a very wet area in the middle. In fact, we called it the long swamp, and all we did really was dam the end and flooded it, and then recreated some wetlands up the valley and planted riparian down the side. This was a family project, my husband and myself and our 4 children, and we've done this over the last 10 years. We get a lot of enjoyment out of coming down here and escaping the high octane life we live at Mount Maunganui, and in Tauranga. So it's a great spot, and we really enjoy it. This area out in front of you we planted in 1984. It was a difficult bit of the farm. There's quite a complex water system in the middle of it, and with bush steep-sided down to it. We were losing stock in there, and we were getting some erosion on the sides. So it just seemed logical to put it into an alternative land use, and trees seemed a good answer. We did put the lusitanica on some of the sidelings. We've put the acacia melanoxyn down in the valley, and it's worked well with the remnant bush that's further down. And the eucalyptus was a little bit of a shelter belt come plantation further down. This is a pre-1990 forest, so we've actually we've taken all our carbon credits on this forest here, as with all of our pre-1990 forest. And that's been useful income. We do have some post-1989 forests, but we're still debating whether to carbon farm that or not at this stage. The other byproduct of this part of the farm is that we boundary with a regional park, and this is where the recreation has come in big time to us. We have everything from mountain biking, walkers, horse riding, and they really enjoy using our forests for all of these purposes, and they pay a small donation to be able to have that opportunity, the public. So that's an interesting byproduct of having a forest on a farm. Our stock numbers haven't gone down because what we've planted were areas where we couldn't carry a lot of stock anyway. It was too erosive or
Easy to lose stock in them.
Yeah.
And therefore you put more into your better pastures, more improvements into those, and don't worry about the poorer bits.
And we're able to, fertilise the easier country and get better production out of that than we are on the steeps.
It's a good shelter area also, usually after shearing, especially if the weather's uncertain. We'll put the newly shorn sheep down in here, or even at lambing time sometimes.
The other thing that we've had ongoing firewood contractors working out of whenever we've done partial thinnings of this timber. The acacia melanoxyn seems very popular. We're about to do a partial harvesting in the eucalypts, a production thinning, and the byproduct will be there'll be firewood as well from that. And we've taken out a few cypress, haven't we, just for timber use. So we're starting to reap the rewards of plantings, you know, 27 years ago, which is really exciting, and that's probably going to be us for the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to be concentrating more on the harvesting and the income that we can start to retrieve from this, as well as replanting it for the future generations.